Imagine a world where gold, the ultimate symbol of wealth and stability, vanishes. Not in a slow, gradual decline, but seemingly overnight, leaving behind a global economic catastrophe that makes the Great Depression look like a minor blip. What if I told you that in 1973 we came terrifyingly close to witnessing just such an event? A series of highly unusual and deeply unsettling incidents began to unfold, pushing humanity to the brink of financial collapse, all centered around the inexplicable behavior of gold itself. This isn't just about market fluctuations. It's about something far more fundamental, something that hints at a hidden vulnerability in our most prized possessions. To truly grasp the magnitude of what transpired, we need to rewind to the early 1970s. The world was already a pressure cooker of economic uncertainty. The Bretton Woods system, which had pegged the US dollar to gold and other currencies to the dollar, was crumbling. Inflation was rampant, and President Nixon had famously closed the gold window in 1971, effectively ending the dollar's convertibility to gold. This was a seismic shift, meant to stabilize the American economy, but it unleashed gold into a free market for the first time in decades. The stage was set for unprecedented volatility. Experts predicted wild swings, but what actually happened defied all conventional economic models. Gold prices began to fluctuate not just daily, but hourly, sometimes by percentages that made even seasoned traders gasp. It wasn't just erratic, it was almost sentient. There were persistent rumors among insiders, hushed conversations in the hallowed halls of financial institutions about something being fundamentally wrong. Some called it the gold fever, an irrational obsession, but others, with a keener eye, noticed something more sinister developing. Reports, initially dismissed as anecdotal, started trickling in from refineries and mints across the globe. Gold, for lack of a better term, was behaving strangely. It wasn't uniform, it wasn't predictable, and it wasn't just money anymore. It was something else entirely. Then things took a much darker turn. The initial market chaos was unsettling enough, but soon physical gold itself began to present peculiar anomalies. Refineries in Switzerland reported difficulties in smelting. The metal, renowned for its malleability and consistent properties, was occasionally behaving like an alloy, stubbornly resisting the high temperatures required or producing unexpected impurities. Jewelers complained of a strange brittleness in certain batches, making intricate work almost impossible. The color, too, at times seemed subtly off, lacking the familiar warm luster, sometimes appearing oddly dull, almost inert. These were minor at first, easily dismissed as isolated incidents, perhaps mislabeled shipments or human error. But the reports kept coming, increasing in frequency and intensity. Vaults in New York and London began to report minor discrepancies, not just missing bars, but bars that seemed slightly lighter than their recorded weight, or displaying an almost imperceptible change in density. The differences were tiny, easily attributable to measurement errors or environmental factors, yet collectively they painted a troubling picture. Governments, still reeling from the abandonment of Bretton Woods, downplayed these reports furiously. They couldn't afford a panic. The global economy was too fragile. But behind closed doors, a quiet investigation was already underway. A few intrepid, if overlooked, metallurgists and physicists were brought in to examine these anomalous samples. Their initial findings were baffling. On a molecular level, some gold appeared, changed, not adulterated with other metals, but as if its very atomic structure had been subtly agitated, its electron shells in an unusually excited state. What could cause such a thing? Was it an unknown environmental phenomenon, a rare geological impurity, or something far more unsettling? The term gold sickness began to circulate quietly among these experts. It sounded fantastical, almost mythological, but it was the only way they could describe the metal's increasingly unpredictable nature. There were even rumors of gold bars, stored in deep, secure vaults, emitting faint, rhythmic clicks, sounds that could only be detected by specialized equipment, like a heart beating in solid metal. This wasn't just a market correction. This was a fundamental transmography of one of the most stable elements known to man. What they discovered next changed everything. The culmination of this escalating crisis arrived with a terrifying discovery at Fort Knox, the bedrock of American gold reserves. In a routine, though highly secretive, audit initiated due to the global gold sickness concerns, a team of top government scientists, metallurgists, and security personnel descended into the legendary vaults. What they found was not a few light bars or discolored ingots, but something far more disturbing. Deep inside one of the most secure compartments, an entire stack of standard 400-ounce good delivery bars displayed an advanced, terrifying stage of the sickness. The bars were not just dull, they were visibly corroded in places, not with rust or tarnish, but with a strange, crystalline growth that seemed to bloom from within the metal itself. More alarmingly, some bars were emitting a low hum, detectable even without specialized gear. When a leading physicist, Dr. Eris Thorne, carefully approached one of these affected bars with a Geiger counter, the device immediately screamed, registering unprecedented levels of gamma radiation. This wasn't just gold behaving strangely, it was gold becoming dangerously radioactive. The fear that swept through the Fort Knox team was palpable. This was not a localized phenomenon. It was an indication that whatever was affecting gold was capable of converting a stable element into something else entirely, something volatile and lethal. The implications were catastrophic. Not only were vast quantities of global wealth potentially compromised, but the very stability of our planet's financial system was at risk of a radioactive implosion. The government's response was swift and absolute, an immediate top-secret cover-up. All records of the Fort Knox discovery were sealed, personnel involved were debriefed and reassigned under strict non-disclosure agreements, and the narrative of economic hardship, inflation, and market speculation was pushed even harder to explain gold's plummeting value and eventual withdrawal from many central bank reserves. They couldn't tell the public that the very gold upholding their economies was turning into a deadly irradiated element. The oil shock of 1973, the Vietnam War, and subsequent economic recessions became convenient smokescreens, diverting attention while the world's most powerful nations silently grappled with a potentially apocalyptic threat. The gold that was subtly replaced, discreetly melted down, or simply lost from vaults around the world was done so under the guise of market forces and strategic reserve adjustments. The true reason, however, remained locked away, a terrifying secret that humanity came within an inch of discovering, a secret that, if revealed, would have shattered not just economies, but our understanding of matter itself. To this day, most believe the demonetization of gold was purely an economic decision, a consequence of the Bretton Woods collapse and the rise of fiat currencies. But what if the truth is far more unsettling? What if the lingering market volatility, the occasional inexplicable flash crashes, and the constant fear of a global financial reset are echoes of that terrifying event? The official narrative holds that everything returned to normal, that gold eventually stabilized and resumed its role as a valuable commodity and speculative asset. But the whispers, the vague unease among those who remember the early 70s, suggest otherwise. We may never know the full truth of what caused the gold sickness or how extensively it spread. Was it a natural, albeit rare, geological process triggered by some unknown cosmic alignment? Was it an accidental byproduct of clandestine atomic testing, leaking into the Earth's crust in unforeseen ways? Or was it something else entirely, a phenomenon that challenges our very understanding of the elements? The world economy has since rebuilt itself on a foundation largely detached from gold, yet the ghost of 1973 still haunts the corners of global finance. If you want to dive deeper into other mysteries that redefine our perception of reality, our next video explores the unsettling phenomenon of phantom islands and why explorers kept finding land masses that simply vanished from maps. And so, the gold crisis of 1973 remains a profound enigma, a stark reminder of humanity's fragility. The global financial system, so carefully constructed, was nearly brought to its knees not by war or pestilence, but by the inexplicable transformation of its very foundation. We may have paper money, digital currencies, and complex derivatives now, but the sheer terror of Fort Knox, the silent radioactive hum, the strange crystalline growth, all serve as a chilling testament to the unknown. The implications of gold's strange sickness are staggering. If one element, so basic and trusted, can be fundamentally altered, what does that say about the stability of the world around us? And are we truly protected from a similar, silent threat emerging from the very ground beneath our feet? The records are sealed, the witnesses have passed on, and the official story has long been accepted. But the questions, like the faint, rhythmic clicks in the deep vaults of memory, still resonate. What really happened to gold?